I think, on the basketball side of it, one conversation that a lot of people have been having here in Toronto is sort of just about role definition for Scottie. What is the role for him? People like to point to, a couple of times he's been quoted saying, I see myself as a point guard. People look at his Instagram page, it says point guard on there. And I think Nick has even acknowledged it as well that, he does want to play point. If that's the role for him that he wants to go down, what's the progression that you sort of need to see from him in his growth to eventually become, a very effective point guard in this league?
Well, first of all, you have to be an elite ball handler. And it's even harder. The taller you are, the harder it is because the ball is traveling that much longer before it gets back in your hands. Your center of gravity is lifted a little bit because you're taller. And so you've got to get so much better. He does, but I give this speech to my point guards all the time, almost on a daily basis. In fact, my clients have to spend 10 minutes a day, every day on their handle, including game day. I don't care what the team does. They owe themselves 10 minutes extra of handle. And normally it's stationary ball handling if it's game day. If it's not game day and you're not practicing real hard, then you can do it in more movement stuff. But you just have to have an elite handle. The ball's got to be part of your hand. The next thing is the harder thing. Well, first of all, finishing is important. If he doesn't want to be a taller Ricky Rubio, you've got to learn to finish better. You've got to learn to make shots and then be weaponized as a scorer, which is something he did not do in college well. I thought he was much better last year.
Yep.
And then the hardest thing is, and this takes years, and this may be part of what we're going through here too with him, which is managing that balance of floor leader, quarterback, scorer. It's just hard to do. And the players, like I think Fred, for example, he sees himself as a scorer first, and I'm fine with that. If that's who you are and you don't take bad shots, great, because you're always weaponized looking to score. Scottie is such a gifted passer, as you well know.
Yep.
And so he's never probably going to have that personality, but you've got to get comfortable with, okay, when is it my time to shoot and when is it my time to pass? And there's rules for that. You can even use math. If there's the probability of you succeeding on a particular shot can dictate whether or not you should pass or shoot. But he's such a feel guy. I don't think analytically he's thinking about that, but as he ages, he will. But I've noticed in the last few games that I've watched of his, and to be honest with you, when you guys lost Siakam, I didn't watch as much because you're not as good. I really try to focus on the better teams.
It's not even the same. It's not close.
I can't follow all 30 teams. So I got to follow the relevant teams. I catch them enough on Synergy. I was watching some 3 or 4 days ago, even before you texted me, just to kind of see how they were doing. And there are times where Scottie feels, it looks like to me like he's thinking, I've got to shoot this. And that's a terrible mindset to have. You could have the mindset of, I have to make a play. But the play isn't necessarily to shoot. That's dictated on how open you are, what the likelihood you're going to score and or get fouled. And if those numbers are lower, well, then you should be passing the ball to someone who's got a higher number. And honestly, that just takes time. But if he improves his handle, and the one thing him at point guard is I'd hate for him to be not involved in the offensive rebounding game and the cutting game. Those are two of his real strengths. So Nick Nurse is no dummy. He will play him some like Ben Simmons when Ben Simmons was an all-NBA player. Not this Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
Get him in the dunk spot, get him cutting, get him screening and rolling and picking and popping, of course. And then, of course, being a primary ball handler using screens. And he also has to get much, much better. He's actually bad using screens when I've watched, at understanding how to use them, refuse them, reuse them, use them, then refuse them. There's a subtle art to this game and a science. And I think he's got some feel for both, but he's nowhere near the expert at either yet because he needs more reps. He's young.
Yeah, no, we keep coming back to this. I mean, like, obviously sometimes for people who are really, really enamored with Scottie, and obviously there's good reason to be, right? People have a hard time sometimes. They reflexively reject some of these criticisms or even just sort of updates on sort of how he's playing. But I think, again, like, this has to all be said in the context that he is very young and that this is a new situation for him that he's sort of having to adapt to. I think your point about him playing point guard and sort of, taking away from the other aspects of his game is really, really interesting. I haven't heard that point a lot from, just elsewhere in the Raptors conversations because, yes, he is a really good cutter. He is really good at the offensive rebounding when he's around the hoop, but he's not obviously around the basket as much if he's mostly setting up the plays at the top.